They told her I might never walk again. The surgeon didn't sugarcoat it. Multiple fractures. Pelvis, spine. He's lucky to be alive. Lucky. Funny how that word gets thrown around when you're lying in a hospital bed, wrapped in wires and tubes, unable to lift your own hand without help. I didn't feel lucky. I felt lost. I was 77, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I was coming back. The fall happened fast. One wrong step on wet stairs. The kind of moment you can't rewind. You hear a crack, not just bone, but time splitting open, the future going silent. They sedated me for the worst of it, but I remember waking up, not to pain, that came later. I woke up to her hand on my chest, her thumb tracing lazy circles like she was trying to remind me I still had a body beneath all the machines. She didn't cry. She didn't ask if I was scared. She just whispered, "It's okay. We still have the lake." And I wanted to tell her, we don't. The land was still just dirt, but she said it like it was already there, like the house already stood, like the porch already faced the water and the wind already knew our names. That's when I realized something. She wasn't holding my hand to comfort me. She was holding it to anchor me, to remind me that I wasn't done, that there was something waiting on the other side of this pain, something real, a promise, a dream, a house we hadn't built, but already belonged to. So I made a decision. I would get out of that bed, not for pride, not to prove the doctors wrong, but to build that house nail by nail, pain by pain. And every time I thought I couldn't, I'd remember her voice whispering, "We still have the lake." Hospitals smell like surrender. Not the sharp kind, not bleach and chemicals. It's quieter, like old paper, like things left too long without movement. I spent weeks in that bed, no window view, no clock that worked, only the soft rhythm of machines breathing for me, counting time I could no longer measure. The pain was constant, sometimes sharp, sometimes dull, but always there. My body wasn't mine anymore. Every shift had to be negotiated, every movement followed by apologies. Mine, theirs, no one's. They put rails on the bed, a belt around my waist, a clipboard above my head that said "Fall Risk" in bold black letters, as if I didn't already know. I was 77 and I had to be lifted like a child. The first time they tried to get me standing, I passed out from the pain. I remember the ceiling spinning, hands grabbing under my arms, the shame, the heat, the wet in my eyes I refused to call tears. That night, I told her not to come the next morning, but she did, with a bag of books and the rolled-up blueprints. She laid them across my lap like scripture, ran her fingers over the sketch, the deck, the fireplace, the window that would face the water. "This is still ours," she said, like it hadn't just been taken from us, like I hadn't just shattered every bone it would take to build it. But the way she looked at that paper, it wasn't fantasy, it was faith. And I realized she didn't need me to be strong, she needed me to believe again. So I started small, one breath, then two, one squeeze of her hand, then a finger curled around the walker. I pictured the house, the sound of wood underfoot, the way that vision became my anchor. While the therapist spoke of muscle groups, I imagined sanding the porch. While they measured my balance, I counted steps to where the front door would be. I wasn't healing, I was building. And every inch of movement, every grimace, every gasp was another board on that dream. She never said the word impossible, not once. She just kept showing up, reading out loud, bringing photos of lakefront houses she knew we couldn't afford, just to keep the picture alive. And in the silence of my worst nights, her voice would echo, "Don't give up, love. There's still a house waiting for you." The first time I held a hammer again, my hands trembled. Not from fear, not even from weakness, but from the sheer weight of it. Because it wasn't just a tool, it was a bridge. From the man I used to be, to the man I was fighting to become again. We were back home by then. I'd spent 92 days in rehab. Long days, silent mornings, even longer nights full of groans I tried to muffle. Out of pride more than pain, but she never missed a single one. She rubbed my legs when they seized, brought warm towels in the middle of the night, read old love letters aloud when the pain refused to let me sleep. And every day she whispered, "Soon we'll stand on that deck together." So the day I asked her to drive me out to the lake, she didn't question it. She just smiled, that quiet smile of hers, and said, "I'll pack the thermos." The land hadn't changed. Still wild, still uneven, still waiting, just like I was. We stepped out of the truck slowly. The cane sank a little in the mud, but I was standing on our land. That was enough to make my chest hurt in a different way. The hammer was light, too light, the same model I'd used all my life, but my arms had forgotten. Still, I lifted it, not to swing, not yet, just to feel it. She watched from the folding chair, hands wrapped around the thermos, eyes locked on me like I was a tightrope walker on my first step. And I was, because that moment, that first tap of metal against wood, wasn't about the house. It was about me, choosing to build again, choosing to stay, choosing her. We started small, a single beam, a line in the dirt, a porch post with nothing behind it. But every board I placed, every nail I set, every hour I stayed standing was a declaration. We're not done. She helped when she could. Mostly she watched, and that was enough. Because her watching meant something. It meant she still believed, that she still saw him, the man who promised her a house on the water before he ever had a savings account. We came back every weekend. Sometimes I could only work 15 minutes, sometimes just one nail. But I marked progress in hope, not in hours. And the strangest thing happened. The pain didn't leave, but it started meaning less. Because now I had something heavier than pain to carry. Purpose. I still remember the day the first wall went up. It wasn't straight. The wind fought us. My arms ached. But I looked at her standing in the doorway of what would be our bedroom someday, hair blowing sideways, smiling like the house already existed. And I thought, this is what coming back to life feels like. Not instant, not easy, but earned. Board by board, breath by breath, belief by belief. It took me 17 months. 17 months of sweat, of setbacks, of slow mornings, where the pain nearly convinced me to stay in bed. 17 months of learning how to measure without rushing, how to cut without trembling, how to ask for help when I couldn't lift the beam alone. But we did it together. She brought lunch in mason jars, sat on the porch step while I measured and cursed and laughed and sometimes cried. She handed me screws like a nurse passes instruments in an operating room. Quietly, precisely, without comment. And then one morning, as fog rose off the lake like breath from a sleeping giant, I hammered the final board into place. The porch, the last step, the place we dreamed of watching the sun set, coffee in hand, her toes tucked under my leg like always. I looked up, and she was already standing there. No makeup, no big moment. Just her, smiling through tears like the house had been growing inside her all along. "You built it," she whispered. I shook my head. "We did. We didn't throw a party, didn't invite friends or post pictures. That wasn't what this was. This was between her and me. Between that moment in the hospital." She opened it. The hinges creaked a little. The inside still smelled of sawdust and new paint. But to us, it was a cathedral. Wooden windows and love made solid. She stepped inside like it was sacred ground, ran her hand along the banister I'd sanded 100 times, paused in the kitchen and said, "Right here. This is where we'll dance." And we did. Right then. No music, no shoes, just two old souls swaying gently in a house that shouldn't exist, but does, because we refused to stop believing in it. That night we sat on the porch, wrapped in one old quilt. The lake was still, the wind soft, and she said something I'll never forget. "You know, I always knew you'd build it." I looked at her. "How?" "Because when they told me you wouldn't come back." She paused. We watched the stars come out. And for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel old. I felt like a man who had kept his promise. I used to think building a house was about walls, foundation, support beams, angles, calculations, time. But I know better now. Building this house, at 77 with screws in my back and pain in my every breath, wasn't about blueprints. It was about proof. Proof that I was still here, that the accident didn't take everything, that love doesn't have a retirement date, and dreams don't come with an expiration stamped in bold. Every man at some point in life has a dream he quietly lets go of, a place he imagines, and then, over time, stops mentioning. For me, it was this house. I had pictured it since we were newlyweds. A little cabin, a quiet lake, a porch for her flowers, a chair for my coffee. Nothing fancy, just ours. But time has a way of stealing gently. You think, we'll build it someday. Then comes work, kids, aging. Then comes the fall, and suddenly you wonder if someday was just a story you told yourself to soften the truth. I believed that for a while, until she wouldn't let me. She never let go of the dream, even when I did. She kept bringing it back with sketches and smiles and stubborn hope. She believed when I couldn't. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not strength, not willpower, Just one person who keeps whispering, "You're still the man who said you would." Now we wake up to the sound of water brushing the shore. We drink tea on the porch. She reads, I watch her. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. But every silence is full, because this house speaks for us. It says we're still here, we still made it, even after they said I wouldn't, even after pain, even after doubt. Every beam holds a version of me I thought I'd lost. Every floorboard creaks with her faith. And now when I close my eyes at night, I don't hear monitors or footsteps in the hospital hallway. I hear wind and her soft breath beside me, and the echo of something only we understand. You came back and you built it. Sometimes I sit on the edge of our dock just before sunrise. The lake is still, the world is quiet, and I think about how close I came to never seeing any of this. One fall, one slip, one surgeon shaking his head. And yet, here I am. Not because I'm strong, not because I'm lucky, but because someone believed I wasn't done yet. She believed in this house when it was still just dirt and sketches. Believed in my hands when I couldn't even lift a glass. Believed in our life, even when mine was hanging by threads. That kind of faith builds more than walls. It builds men. And maybe you're listening to this right now, feeling like your best days are behind you, like the dream you had once. That place, that promise, that version of you is too far gone. Let me tell you something. It isn't. You are not too old, too broken, too late. If there is breath in your body and someone worth coming back for, then it's not over. Pick up the hammer, pick up the brush, pick up the phone. Whatever it is, build it. Even if it's slow, even if it hurts. Because when you finally stand there, where you always dreamed you would, you'll know. Every step, every scar, every sleepless night was worth it. If this story lit even the smallest spark in you, stay with us. Subscribe for more stories like this, like the video if you felt something. And leave a comment. Tell us what your lake house is, the thing you're still dreaming about. And if you missed the last story about the woman who danced again after illness, because waltzing with her husband was stronger than death, go listen to that one next. Because some houses are built with bricks, but the ones that last forever, they're built with love and someone who never stopped waiting on the porch.